You are listening to the Martial Arts Lifestyle Podcast, where each week we have a conversation with everyday martial arts practitioners. From the first motivation to train, martial arts enriches our lives and becomes a lifestyle. Welcome to the individual stories of those martial artists living that lifestyle. You are listening to the abbreviated version. For those of you checking this out on YouTube, please hit the like and subscribe buttons. Full-length versions of this podcast can be subscribed to at our Patreon page, is www.patreon.com/malmag. Or individual full-length episodes can be purchased at our Gumroad page at malmag.gumroad.com. Before we begin this week's program, I would like to remind you to check out martialartslifestylemagazine.com to see articles on the martial arts. Click on the store tab to find products for the practice of Southeast Asian martial arts, featuring Timmy B's brand sticks. Check out the courses tab, currently featuring a course on the Dos Manos method of the Filipino martial arts. Also check out our Places to Train page, featuring top quality martial art academies from around the world. And of course, check out our events page for seminars and events coming up around the world. To see your school listed in our Places to Train page or your event on our events calendar, contact us at malmagonline@gmail.com. This week I get on Zoom and I connect to Portland, Oregon, and I talk to Holly Ung. I want to congratulate Holly on just getting her instructorship under Guru Dan. Funny that I thought she had it well before that, so this young lady is pretty talented. We talk about how she got involved in martial arts, the first time doing some Filipino martial arts made her hungry for more, how she got involved in the Inosanto family circles, taking up Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and paying it forward by teaching self-defense seminars for marginalized groups. Sit back and enjoy. Welcome to the Martial Arts Lifestyle Podcast, and this week I've got, I want to say happily and sadly, this is actually my first female guest of the year, and I'm actually very sad about that because I try to get a lot of female martial artists on here because I find the stories of women who've gotten into martial arts to always be very fascinating, especially considering, as old as I am, I go back to when there was 100 students in an academy and you've got like 4 that are females. And so now, as I've said so many times on this podcast, that our kids class is 50% young ladies. And so I just that switching demographic is something that's always been interesting to me, and so I like to get that. So Holly, welcome to the show. Holly, I've known for God, I don't even know how many years now, but you're from Oregon, and the funny thing is, you recently got an instructorship.
I did.
Dan, and I didn't realize it. I thought you were an instructor already, you and Jazz both, because I've seen you so much, and I guess I don't realize that maybe it's not at an instructor camp or something, but you guys already had instructor quality movement to you, so that's why I said please take that as a compliment when I thought you were an instructor already.
I take that as the highest compliment because as a traveling student of Guru Dan, and Guru Dan used to do his Northwest section of his seminar tour.
Both Seattle and Portland.
Yeah, so I try to hit up both, and so the Portland one and Seattle one. So I don't get to see him very often, and then every time I come down, when I get to come down to LA and train at the academy, if the quality is so good, it's a little bit intimidating. So to have you be like, oh, I thought you had it already. That's huge. So thank you very much.
Yeah, no, of course. No, seriously. It's I really like and admire, especially the folks that you're sort of learning at a distance, like that. In a way, as far as like with Guru Dan, obviously, you have people that you work with locally, but sometimes, that's a cool thing because you're getting, a bunch of information, and then you're all just working the hell out of it until the next time, you see Guru Dan. And so, it looks like what that is to me. I see people that looks like they're doing their homework, which is really kind of cool.
Well, I definitely would be remiss if I don't say, like, when you said that, yeah, we do definitely have to do our homework. But if you don't have someone quality to help guide you in the homework, it's
Yeah.
hard to get there. And so
Yeah.
it's really a lot of, I'm really grateful for Sifu Chris Clark and Guru Joe Heller um, at the River City Warriors to help me like make
Yeah.
sure that things are sharp and crisp, and that I can go down to LA and do my thing. And even though it might not come out as smoothly as the people that train day to day with Guru Dan, like,
I wouldn't say that, if you're seeing us be smooth, that's not 100% of the time. We're getting lucky that you're seeing us on a good day, because we're humans like anybody else.
yeah.
We'll look good, and we'll look like there are days that I just want to take everything, certificates and everything, just hand them back to Guru and go, I'm sorry.
Well, thank
I
you for
didn't I
saying
didn't
that.
represent you so well there. If you want them back, that's cool.
Oh, well, I'm glad. I'm glad you said that, because I certainly feel like that even before the certificate. I'm like, oh my gosh, but no, it's something special. I love being down in at the academy. I'm really appreciative of being able to train um with Joe and Sifu Chris when he's in town. And then it's really affirming and validating to go
Yeah,
down, be able to follow along, do things. Yeah. So I
that's
love it.
cool. Let's talk a little bit about you getting the instructor thing first, and then let's go backwards, because I mean that's honestly, it's a big deal. It's a big deal for anyone to make that accomplishment. And for those that are sort of maybe that are in our audience that don't practice FMA or JKD, this is kind of like getting your instructorship credential is kind of like getting your black belt or some high belt in another art, where it's just like it's a big deal. It's something that you put a lot of time in. And so, for you, was it a surprise when you got it, or did you know it was coming? Or
Um, well, I think I was hoping, but I didn't dare put a lot of weight on it, because I think, it's something that it took Joe, and I always call him Joe, Guru Joe is a mouthful, first of all. And also, I've
yeah,
known him for 15 years, and I hope, and I don't think he'll take it as a disrespect when I said call him Joe. It will be less of a tongue
no,
twister for
yeah,
me.
I think that's fine. I mean,
Um,
at JKD, that world, the academy was always fairly informal, and I think it's gotten more formal since I've been there. But even with, I think if you ask anyone who's at the academy, including myself, if you and I've had people say, "Well, what should I call you?" I'm like, "Well, you just call me Tim. That's my name." If I'm teaching a class, you can call me by a title if you'd like, if that makes you more comfortable. But I'm like, outside of that, I don't, because the title Guru, you say Guru, and I'm going to look for Guru Dan. You say Sifu, and I'm looking for Sifu Larry or Sifu Francis.
yeah,
They're great titles, and I don't take them for granted. But at the same time, they do represent a particular level of things that I think a lot of us think we're imposter syndroming, with it. So sometimes it's a
absolutely.
little more, especially if we're more friendly with you and
Yeah,
personable with you. I think the just the use of the first name is
yeah.
I think almost just as respectful as using the title in a way.
Yeah. Well, thank you. So Joe had been kind of really advocating for us in the back. In
Mhm.
fact, I probably don't know what all he was doing, but he really, you know, I think
The
that,
usual thing we make people do. He had to, like walk over
yeah,
hot coals, roll naked through a field of poison ivy. No, I'm kidding.
that's why he's so sore when he flies back home. During these training trips. That makes much
That's
more
right.
sense now. But so we've been on and off, because it's really hard when I call it distance learning,
Yeah.
to kind of have people at the academy that makes those kind of evaluations to know you.
Hmm.
So, every time Guru Dan comes to town, or we're in Seattle and we're training, we try to be sharp. We're not
Right.
just there to learn, but we're also like trying to be sharp. And that part of it, and part of it's just representing our school well, and also like representing like the quality of Joe's instruction well, that
Oh yeah, of course.
he never asked that of us, but we want to do that. And so in that way, it has been a preparation probably over 10 years, I would say.
Oh, oh, that's good.
But when it
Yeah.
comes to the certificate part itself, that was something that, Joe had approached me and Jazz, and actually the third part of our training partner, the training trio, Peregrine. I think you might have met him, Peregrine Summerfield. He was up in
Now you think Joe was a mouthful? I think, or Guru Joe was a mouthful. I think
Peregrine, yeah.
Peregrine, that's a mouthful.
Yeah, so he got injured a little bit at the end of the year last year, so that's why he wasn't able to come with us. But us, me, Jazz, and Peregrine's been training together, I don't know, for at least 10 years, I would
Oh
say.
wow, that's
Yeah,
great.
and
That's
so,
great.
and in fact, Peregrine before his injury is I train with him weekly. So it's a little bittersweet that, we didn't get to do that all together. Um, I lost my train of thought.
Oh, it's okay. No, well, we'll get you back on it because
Yeah.
we were talking about the certificate, the process, whether it was a surprise to you.
Yeah, so so Joe had approached us three, that's why I brought in Peregrine. Joe has approached us three and let us know that, hey, I would like to, put you up for that. Would you write a letter and talk a little bit about yourself and your journey and like just requesting that consideration for the instructorship and so that started I don't know, late in November. But even with that, nothing is for sure. It's still a request. There's
Oh
evaluation,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
decision making. So I think Jazz and I, when Joe was talking, he said, I think it's going to happen this trip. We were in LA and during the workshop. He's like, I think we're going to happen this trip. Both Jazz and like we're gonna. I mean, we're happy, but also like I didn't let go of a breath until Joe handed me the paperwork. And this was, it was very casual, and I kind of prefer it that way. There was no
Yeah.
presentation, but just pulled us aside, gave us the envelope. And this was while I think Sifu Francis is still teaching. And so like
Oh.
tears welled up in my eyes. And I was like, keep it together. You cannot be crying for no reason. For
Right, right,
like, for reason that other people can discern.
right. Yeah, they're
In the
just gonna be like,
middle
oh,
of
that
a
poor girl,
wisdom
she's
seminar.
upset about something.
Something, yeah, like, or she's just really emotional about the ceiling tile. Like it could be, it's very
Yeah.
moving. So, but yeah, so I had always hoped, but I never expected. And I'll tell you one thing though, I think for me, the moment, so I'm still trying to figure out what that means, having these
Okay.
three certificate. It feels like an outfit that doesn't quite fit yet, you know?
Right. Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but the part that was the most meaningful to me, and I think the one that was more comfortable for me to accept aren't the certificates, but this was in 2019. This was the Legends Camp up in Vancouver, BC.
Hmm.
And I haven't been at one of those. And I think if I remember correctly, they're usually in Calgary. So that year was kind of a different thing that it was even within a 6 hour drive of Portland as opposed to a flight. And so me, Jazz, and Peregrine went up there. And Joe was supposed to be up there with us. And then I don't remember what happened, but he ended up not being able to go. And so it was Guru Dan and Sifu Francis, and we were training for 3 days, I think.
Hmm.
And towards the end of that, actually at some point in the workshop, you know how Guru Joel will move around and help people out. He came up to me and he was like, hey, I thought you had your certificate already. And I was like, no. I was like, I haven't even thought about that. But it was kind of same as well when you said it. I was like, I couldn't believe it. Because, I think I probably had more FaceTime with Guru Joel than Guru Dan in these seminars I've been attending for what, I don't know, 9 years at that time, and
Uh-huh.
so for him to be like, hey, this is a surprise that that just have him say like you look like you could be certified was being really meaningful. And then the cherry on top of that, I was already on cloud nine, and then the cherry on top of that was at the end of the seminar. And Guru's been teaching, he's usually pretty tired, but he's very like, he wants to give everybody his time, so I can tell, he's done teaching, he's taking all the pictures, and we're giving out the certificates for completion of the camp. And he said to me, and usually he just says hi, we give respect to each other, and he would say, thank you for training or something like that. But this time he stopped me and says, you're doing really good, keep going.
Oh,
I
nice.
didn't even know, besides the person that always have different color hair, I didn't even know that Guru knows who I am. let alone like been watching me and like being able. So Guru's not the kind of man that will just say that.
Well, I'm going to tell you, we also have a few other people who change the color of their hair quite often. So you're not the only lady with the changing color
Yeah.
hair. So if he's even
Yeah.
pulling you out of that, that's see, there you go.
Yeah. So for me though, that I think at that moment, because we had talked about wanting to be certified and getting instructor paperwork. And but that I that moment when I said that, I was like, it doesn't really matter if that never happened. Like to me, that was the moment. I was like,
Hmm.
okay, you are doing something right. So for
Yeah.
me, that started in that moment. Now there's these two pieces of paper that's really heavy, and I don't know what to do with them. They're still in the envelope. So I'll grow into them. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I one thing that I will say, I think if Joel remarked in the same way I did, it's like you already have grown into them. If we've, if we're thinking you already were there, right? So I don't think that's so much of a thing to worry about. But you take it as you take it at the time you take it.
Yeah.
Because I understand what you mean by that because you're just all of a sudden going, wow, okay, does this mean something different? Is there a
Yeah.
different expectation or something now? So yeah, I mean I think that's a natural
Yeah.
um, mindset to go through when this particular type of thing happens. And it's great. And I just again I want to say congratulations because I think
Yeah.
it's awesome. So there's a couple things in here that I think are really great things to talk about. And the first of which is what do you think now that you've gotten that and you're thinking of it as some clothes that don't fit yet or you're not exactly sure what all this means. What do you think will change now for you with that recognition? Is there anything that will, or do you think you're going to change a focus in any way, or has this created a turning point of some sort for you?
I think generally from the day to day with me teaching or how I with me teaching, no. I've been teaching the way I've been teaching, and that's not going to change.
Hmm.
I but when it comes to my training, I think for the most part, that's also not hasn't changed like my intensity or the way I pay attention. But there are moments, and this has been actually happening already because I think as a teacher, um, I wanted to not only pay attention to what Joe and Guru Dan are teaching about how they're teaching. I think
Hmm.
that there are people that are great at martial arts that's not great at teaching, and there are people that are great at teaching that are not great at martial arts or whatever the activity is. Um, Guru Dan and Joe are the ones that have, and Sifu Chris are people that have both. And so for me, as I get further and further into the techniques, they kind of feels like I feel like I have now a foundation that I can build on. So it's not like I'm building a new thing every time. So my attention now turns more into how they're presenting the material. And sometimes they'll present a material a certain way. And I noticed this even in the last workshop or in the last camp that we were just at with Sifu Francis and this and Guru Dan is that sometimes he'll see, oh, people are struggling. And so he'll switch it.
Hmm.
And then so I try to pay attention to what he's taken off and what he's putting on. And I think now with those um with the paperwork, it I want to be even better at the foundation and not just the doing of it, not just the way I deliver the material already, but the different ways of
Ah,
delivering the material. Sometimes grouping and the presentation helps the learning and the absorption much easier.
right.
And that type of finesse is where I'm putting more of my attention towards because I can kind of follow along without having to use a lot of my attention when I'm training at the moment. So I'm trying to learn about different ways of presenting the same material.
Hmm.
So I think that's the biggest difference. Yeah.
That's cool. No, that's good. That's good that that's already sort of a conscious thought for you
Mhm.
because I mean it's fine to be stunned for a while, and have no idea. I remember when when Larry Hartzell gave me an instructorship first, I looked at Christopher Harley, and we looked at each other and said, "Does this mean anything different? Do we have to do something different?" And fortunately, Deborah said no, and we're like, "Okay, we're going to go to class now."
Yeah. Yeah, I think Joe's been, I think in his way, supporting me. He's been saying Guru Holly. I'm like, who is this person? Like,
Yeah, yeah,
like who? I'm like, I don't even call you Guru Joe most of the time.
right.
Who is this person? And then sometimes one of my private lesson students Venmo or like gave a Venmo me and made a memo line like for Guru Holly. I'm like, I don't know who this Guru Holly is, but I'm
Yeah,
taking her money.
there you
So,
go.
I
Exactly.
don't
Yeah,
know what that is, but otherwise I don't, I think a lot of the difference is just internal and like settling in, but I don't think it makes in fact, if I think about it too much, it gets into my head. I'd rather just like keep my head down and just keep doing what I'm doing.
right.
Yeah.
No, I think that's smart.
Yeah.
Because that's the path that got you there
Yeah.
to begin with. And then from there, I think it's just we mature, for lack of better words, into what those things become. So like instructor or guru, one who takes a person from darkness to light, or sifu, uh, meaning father, I guess, in the Cantonese. So that takes on a lot of metaphorical meaning as well to it for these titles. There is a little more to it, and we have to think about what stepping into that role means. But as far as a lot of the other things, you keep doing the thing that got you there.
Yeah.
And one of the other things I want to talk about with what you said that I think is really important, one of the things that got you there was two or three, or well, I think you mentioned three if we include Joel, is you've got three really good, consistent training partners that you've had for a decade. I
Yeah.
think is what you said, 10 years, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, what could you say, or yeah, what are your thoughts on that? Like the importance of the training partner.
Yeah. You know, so I also do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu under Pedro Sauer Association. And
Hmm.
one of the things that he says all the time, Professor Sauer says all the time, is that one of the most invaluable things, actually, the most invaluable training tool you can have in your pursuit of jiu-jitsu is a training partner.
Yeah.
Especially,
That's like one of those martial arts. It's really obvious that if you don't have one, you're not learning that.
there's no mitt holding, right? There's no
Yeah.
tool. Like there's really no tool besides like maybe the gi, right?
Yeah, I mean a
So
grappling dummy to a point, but it's not.
yes,
It's like a punching bag or the bob dummy. It's like, yeah, I can practice some targeting and whatever, but and it's a great tool, but it's not. You need more. You need that.
yes.
You need that body there. You need that
Yeah,
actual resisting body.
yeah. And I think so I think for especially with Jazz and Peregrine, I think it's almost like that in Cantonese is that idea of like si hang si mui, it's like
Yeah,
that
yeah,
martial arts family, siblings,
right.
and so it's nice to have people that you come up with and you watch each other.
And this concludes the abbreviated version of the podcast. Please consider supporting the program by going to www.patreon.com/MALMAG and subscribing to the show. You can also purchase this individual episode or any individual episode at our Gumroad page. That's malmag.gumroad.com. Thank you for listening to this episode with Holly Ung. Next week, I connect to Texas and I talk with Jacob Brennan. Our Malmag online store at martialartslifestylemagazine.com has a full selection of Timmy B's brand sticks for FMA and Krabiker Bong. Timmy B's brand now selling in Japan as well. Beautiful Timmy B's brand shirts and Dos Manos shirts are available. We also have sarongs, molongs, and wooden training knives. An online course in the Dos Manos method for FMA is available under the Courses tab. More courses coming soon. Check out the Places to Train tab to find schools near you, and click on the events calendar page to see what seminars and events are happening all around the world. And of course, visit our main page for articles on the martial arts. Music by Arthur J. Martial Arts Lifestyle Magazine and the Martial Arts Lifestyle Podcast are trademarked and copyrighted by TNT LLC.